All right, I'm going to walk you guys through the Unit 4 Chemical Reactions Review Sheet. We're going to do problem 3. How many grams of sodium hydroxide are required to prepare 200 mils of a 0.450 molar solution? And then we explain and refer to the labware. I've given myself a little bit more space here than you guys have to work this because I want to draw some little pictures to remind you of how it worked in the lab when you did it. So first let's decide how much sodium hydroxide we want to make this quantity of this concentration. So let's find the molar mass of sodium hydroxide. Looking at my periodic table, I see sodium is 22.99, oxygen is 16.00, and hydrogen is 1.01 in their atomic weights. So adding that all together, I'm getting 40.00 grams per mole as the formula weight, or molar mass, of sodium hydroxide. And we want to get to 200 mils of 0.450 molar. So I'll use the molarity equation, which says molarity equals moles of solute per liter of solvent. 200 milliliters, you can do it on paper or in your head at this point, is going to turn into 0.200 liters. And I'm going to write 0.200 to remind myself that it's 3 sig figs. And the moles of solute is unknown. And the molarity that we were trying to prepare is 0.450. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 0.200 liters. And that's going to cancel that 0.200 liters. And when I do it in my calculator, I get an answer of 0.09. And preserving 3 sig figs, remembering that this 0 is not significant, and these two are, using our good old Atlantic and Pacific rules. So that's the number of moles of sodium hydroxide that I need to start with to create this quantity at this concentration. Okay, so now it says explain how you would do this in the lab. Remembering that a volumetric flask has a long skinny neck with a mark partway up, it would be hard to put powder down the neck of that. So there's a step where we do a preliminary dissolving of my sodium hydroxide, and then I add water later. You don't want to put powder straight into the neck. So how much powder do I need? Well, I need 0.0900 moles. Have I done the part yet where I figure out how many grams that is? Oh, no, I haven't. So if I wanted to get to 0.0900 moles of NaOH, remembering the relationship I just found over here, where 1 mole of NaOH is 40.00 grams, that works out to, again, consulting my calculator, 3.6. 4 sig figs here, 3 sig figs there. It's exactly 1 mole that equals pretty darn close to 40.00 grams, give or take a little bit. So this doesn't limit my number of sig figs. So 3.60 grams is the answer using sig figs. So I need this many grams of sodium hydroxide. So let's start numbering our steps. 1, weigh out 3.60 grams on a balance. And maybe I should squeeze in there of sodium hydroxide. I'm going to mark off that I've used the words just to make sure I'm answering every part of the prompt. So after I've weighed it out on the balance, what's it look like? Oh, it looks like the thing is telling me a reading, and it's got a little round pan. I'm probably going to use a little waxy paper there, and I've got 3.6 grams of solid NaOH. 3.60 grams. Now, remembering that I can't put powder down the neck of a volumetric flask very easily, I'm going to put this in a beaker. Probably a 200 ml beaker will be fine. And add about 100 milliliters of distilled water. Distilled so that I'm not adding any other solute. Enough to dissolve the powder easily, but I don't want to get close to my target of 200 mils, and you'll see why in a minute if that's not already obvious. Stir with stirring rod. Now I'm going to wash stirring rod into beaker. I'll pause and draw that step. So I have 100 mils of solution, approximately. The stirring rod is being hosed down by water, and the little drips are going down. So after I've washed my stirring rod into the beaker, the purpose of that is to capture any sodium hydroxide that's still clinging to the rod, whether powder or liquid. Next, I'm going to use funnel to move this contents of beaker into the flask. And I'll be specific and say it's a 200 ml volumetric flask. Let's see, I've used funnel, stirring rod, volumetric flask, I've used beaker and stirring rod. I'll go ahead and say wash funnel into volumetric flask. Again, because we want to make sure that any of the sodium hydroxide that's on the walls of the funnel winds up down in the bottom of the flask. So far the quantities don't matter exactly. It's just important that I don't lose any of the sodium hydroxide. And then finally fill the volumetric flask to the mark, invert after sealing top a few times, so you go whoosh, 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 whoosh to stir it. And so this step with the funnel, I guess, is number 5, and I'm left with 200 mils of the solution at the desired concentration. I see that the very bottom of my screen is not quite visible to you guys, so I'll shift down. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps.